Prosser Elevation 666 opens retail marijuana store. How did we get to here? There's a proverb that states there's a safety in the multitude of counselors. In a healthy government, elected officials are supposed to carry out the wishes of the taxpayer. The problem in Prosser is a microcosm of our country as a whole and the failure of our check and balance system. Usually, cities have a mayor and a city administrator. But when the previous administrator left, the two positions were merged into one to save money. When the mayor, who is also the city administrator, can make policy without the vote of the city council, there's no end to potential corruption that lies ahead. Prosser has a history of problems. The previous mayor, Linda Lusk, was apparently elected by people who had little knowledge or concern of her moral character, which eventually brought about much shame to the city by her being prosecuted for having sexual encounters with a minor and left her as a registered sex offender. Then, history seems to be repeating itself when a new mayor is put in place who is an atheist. Now, the Bible tells us the fool says in his heart there is no God. They are corrupt and have committed abominable deeds. If a person's only guide for morality is his own, then he and those around him are headed for disaster. On the other hand, if a person has the understanding that he will be held accountable by a supreme being, he might be a bit more hesitant to make decisions that could be harmful to those who look to him for leadership. The decision, we are told, to allow the retail pot store was based partially on fear of being sued. Many other cities, however, in the state placed a moratorium on pot stores based on federal laws, which still considers marijuana sale illegal. So why the fear? Well, the lead author of the pot law, I-502, is Allison Holcomb, the criminal justice director of the ACLU of Washington State. And who is it that's going to sue you if you challenge the new law? The ACLU. So the ACLU is making policy as well as enforcing policy, and they win through intimidation. Making decisions based on fear is not always a healthy thing. There's a proverb that says, "The fear of man brings a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord will be exalted." A fearful pilot who navigates without a compass is likely to end up lost at sea or on the rocks.
Yep, I'm John Holmberg, resident of Prosser for a long time. Been here, Grandview Prosser, for at least 65 years. Live on 172604 West Dogwood. That's out in the country, is Prosser address. And mine's real short. When I found out about the pot store coming in, it just really irritated me. As some of you remember, a couple of years ago that I applied for a license and paid for a license and waited for my hot dog stand. And I was rejected, even though I've been licensed through the state with a tax number ID for over 20 years at that time. And I was told by the city manager at that time that if he allowed such things in this town, it would look like a circus. Well, today I was one of them out there picketing at your new store out there, your pot store. And if that's the kind of customers that you guys want, you got them, because none of those people would have acted like that on my hot dog stand. So I just wanted to let you know that for a citizen of this town, raised our kids here, and then be denied something as simple as that a lot of people got a lot of pleasure out of, because as you know, I spent a lot of time at the farmer's market just keeping my name going in the product, and then to be told no, you know, it looked like a circus, and then this city allowed something like that to happen. It was just irritating to me. I just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Peggy Brown, I'm a resident of Prosser here. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things before I kind of get into stuff. I want to know regarding the recreational marijuana store, was there a vote ever by the city council?
Vote for what?
Just for the store? There was no vote? There wasn't a vote one way or another, correct?
No, there's no vote for stores that
Right.
move into town.
There's no vote for any stores in town. Okay, so there wasn't a vote. Did this go to the planning commission?
I believe so, yes.
The planning commission. Okay. The reason I'm asking is I've asked for.
Well, the store didn't.
Right, the
But-
subject.
Medical
Of the-
marijuana went to the planning commission.
But not recreational.
Correct.
Okay,
Just like a store located here would not.
right.
If
So the
they're-
medical
Yeah.
marijuana issue went to the planning commission, but the recreational store did not.
Correct.
Okay.
In March 4 of 2014, in the minutes of a city council meeting, there's some discussion about general governing ethics. In section 3, there's the statement, "In observance of this code, as in other conduct, there's no substitute for common sense." And you go down a little bit further and it says, "The absence of a specific guideline, practice, or instruction covering a particular situation does not relieve any city official or employee from exercising the highest ethical standards applicable to the circumstance." Now, I would think this would apply to this pot store situation.
Was this then a decision made by just the fact that they applied for a license within the city? So it was made by the mayor and the city planner? Because the planning commission was out of it, the city council was out of it. So I just want to clarify.
No, the city council was not out of it. Staff, myself, planner, made a recommendation that we follow the state law, show council where in the city these could locate.
So yourself and your staff
Well,
and the city
yeah.
planner?
Well, the city planner is staff.
Okay,
Not
so
good.
was the city council aware of that?
I believe so, yes.
You believe so?
Yes.
The reason I'm asking is I've asked for the minutes and stuff, and Rachel's been working with me very hard, so I've just been working on that, so I needed
I believe there's an audio
answers to
recording
those.
from April 22nd where the council asked about recreational marijuana. We stated our, position that we had recommended, and then there was no further questions.
Okay. Do we have a moratorium against any businesses in this particular area where the recreational pot store is at? Is there any businesses that cannot go out there?
Yes, you have to look at the zoning ordinances for that area, and I believe that there are.
And our medical marijuana moratorium is in place.
Right, right. But can you think of anything that can't go out there besides the medical store or
There's
medical
tons of
place?
things. You can't put a slaughterhouse out there.
Okay,
You can't put heavy equipment dealership out there. I mean, there's lots of, you have to read through the codes, and it
Okay.
tells you what you are allowed in certain zones.
okay.
It's all online, I hope,
Yeah.
I think, so.
Okay. It was interesting, I went to the Zilla City Council meeting last night, and I just wanted to let you know what I ran into in Zilla. And Zilla has decided they're not going to let it into their city under the premise that it's against the federal statutes, so they're going with the federal law. So they're not allowing it into Zilla.
Yeah, a lot of cities have done that.
Yes, and then Pasco just yesterday, again, reiterated that they weren't going to let it in. So I just think those things are kind of interesting. One thing I ran across was the ordinance 13-2857 regarding the medical cannabis store. And I thought it was interesting, these minutes for this meeting were back in November 19th, and you guys held an emergency meeting. And that clause, emergency, is on the page 1, and then again on the very end of the page, that this was an emergency meeting by you guys regarding a medical store.
Emergency meeting or a special meeting?
Says emergency.
Okay.
It was probably the language in the ordinance.
The emergency referred to the ordinance becoming effective immediately
Right.
rather than it being an emergency meeting.
Yeah, and then at the last page, what I thought was something I wanted to talk about. The city council declares that an emergency exists requiring passage of this ordinance for the protection of public health, safety, welfare, and peace, based on the findings set forth in section 9. So all of those things, peace. So I want you to explain to me what the difference is for the public health, safety, welfare, and peace between a medical marijuana store and a recreational store.
Okay. Medical marijuana store, there's no regulations to speak of by the state. They punted for regulations. So what's happened in other cities, there's home grow gardens, collective gardens, and they've become targets for burglars and armed robbers in residential areas. And also there's no taxation, and there is no license by the state for those.
Okay.
So that, we thought that, and also the feds have said they will continue to crack down on medical dispensaries and collective gardens as they see fit.
Mhm.
So,
It says on the first page of this ordinance, the chapter 69.51 does not allow dispensaries, leaving enforcement to local officials. I just find if you really read through this, it's so interesting that you guys are allowing a recreational pot store but not a medical.
Medical marijuana is illegal in Washington. All they are doing is condoning it, and it was right in the paper just the other day. The legislature said, we're not prosecuting, we're not going after them, but it is illegal.
Well, recreational is illegal
It's not
under the
illegal.
federal.
Exactly.
So,
But the state of Washington
there's some
voted it in.
cities like Zilla that say, because of federal law, we're not going to allow it because we go by federal law, not by
Exactly,
state law.
Exactly, you're right.
Okay?
You're absolutely right.
Okay, so
But
I think you
medical
guys need to
is
be
illegal,
held to a
federal
higher
and state.
standard. You know, that you are not allowing a medical store, but you are allowing a recreational pot store.
With a recreational pot store, you theoretically know what you're getting. With a medical pot store, you don't have a clue what kind of medical or what kind of marijuana you're getting.
Well,
And well, hang on.
okay,
And the cities that are doing the banning based on federal law, there are some lawsuits going on right now as to whether that's even going to be upheld. So you're going to see the courts probably throw those out. The feds have stated they're not going to do anything with recreational stores as long as the state of Washington is controlling them and overseeing them.
so the federal attorney general wrote letters to the governors of Colorado and Washington saying,
mhm.
you have rigorous regulations. If you enforce them, you make sure that marijuana's not going into juveniles' hands, that it's not crossing state lines. And
So you're
and
responsible for that?
Yeah, we're not going to prosecute. We're not going to come in and bother. So.
A roaring lion is coming after me. Don't you know? Is it Jesus or Barabbas? Choose this day who you'll serve. Yes, I'm standing on my Zion. I'm just waiting for your return. If a trumpet blows in the city, won't the people raise their hands? If I'm standing on the mountain, they're still scoffing, wagging their heads. I send my servant